Welcome to the Monopoly Mindset, the podcast where we uncover the strategies to build your real estate portfolio one property at a time.
We're your hosts, Tyler and Tommy, here to share our story of playing real-life Monopoly.
Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, this is your go-to resource for mastering the real estate game.
So grab your board, roll the dice, and let's buy Boardwalk together.
Welcome to the Monopoly Mindset, episode 26. We have a phenomenal episode coming up. We have two really great investors, David Bull and Michael Martin. So welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks guys for having us. We're excited to be here.
Excited to be here. First podcast.
It'll be easy. But yeah, it's a Saquon episode, so I got my Saquon jersey on. Go Birds. But yeah, so how did you guys kind of individually, I guess we'll start with Michael, because we know David from our Inner Circle group, so we've kind of heard your story a little bit, but Tommy and I both just met Michael about 20 minutes ago, so why don't you just tell us a little bit how you got into real estate, whether that was with David or on your own?
Okay, so with me, real estate wasn't something that I was like always, I've always wanted to do real estate. I've always wanted to be a real estate investor, have rental properties. For me, it was maybe maybe a little bit longer, 3 or 4 years ago. I have a good W-2 and my expenses are really low, and I just knew that I was not being as efficient as I could be with my money. And so I've known David 15 years now, or 15, 16 years, and he's always been like, out of our entire friend group, David's always been the money guy, right? So like he's the guy that would always order water, when we would go out to eat or whatever. So I'd always bring David these ideas. It's like, hey man, I've got like, X amount of money sitting here. It's not doing anything. I'm going to try day trading, or I'm going to try all this stuff. And I went through like all of these things where I was like, I'm not doing what I should be with my money. I could be getting more. I want to be more active with it. I want to be able to turn it into something more. I feel like I've got a really good situation where I've got super low expenses, and I've got a good W-2, and, I just feel like I'm not taking advantage of the situation that I'm in. Well, the whole time David's like, you need a house hack, you need to buy a rent, you just constantly just kind of like nagging in the ear, you need to real estate. And it's like, well, I think I could really take this big nest egg that I have and I could make it day trading. And then I put some time into that, and David's like, please don't. Like, he was literally like, please don't do it. I mean, he's begging me, please, you could just put it into real estate. And then finally came to me, he's like, hey, like, I know you're wanting to do the day trading thing, but I've got a really good opportunity. It's a syndication. And when he was explaining it to me, and I'll be totally honest, I didn't really understand what he was like. He was explaining it to me, and he was kind of trying to dumb it down for me. And I did some slight research, and I was like, okay. And I basically told David from day one, I was like, I'll give you full access to my bank accounts. Like, that's how much I trust David. I was like, I'll give you my logins, whatever. You just take my money, put it whatever. He's like, okay, well, kind of like your first little foot in the door will just be an LP in this syndication. So he got me set up and, explained to me the deal and how the deal structure worked. And I wasn't, I was super invested in taking it seriously, but at this time I'm like, all right, I'm just going to trust David. He's telling me to put X amount of money here. Okay, I'm going to go put it here. So, and a funny story about that, I was going to the bank to wire the money, and I had never wired money before. I've never really had to move any large amounts of currency or. So I go to the bank, and I've got my wiring instructions, and I'm a nervous wreck, and I'm like, okay, I've got to go in here, and I've got to wire this money. So I go into the bank, and I go up to the teller. I need to wire X amount of money. She's like, okay, what's it for? And I'm like, real estate? Like, I didn't really know what to tell her. I was like, it's for a real estate syndication. And she's like, well, can you tell me like a little bit about it? And I was like, listen, I'll be honest with you. I can't really explain what I'm putting my money into, but I'm putting my money in a real estate syndication. And you could 100% see that she thought I was getting scammed. She's like, this poor kid is getting scammed out of all of his money. He doesn't even realize it. I'm like, no, I promise. Like, it's legit. Like, I know what I'm doing. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, now when this is like, you can't take this back. I'm like, I trust David. Send the money. So really, like, my first true real estate, kind of toe in the water was a syndication. And I had no idea what I was putting my money into. I was just like, David told me to put my put my money here. So I did. And then, of course, after I got in it, I get on the distributors list and I start actually learning what I put my money into. And I'm like, oh, this is actually great. But that was kind of like my first little foot in the door into real estate.
Did you try asking the banker if she knew David Bull? Because I'm going to assume she probably did.
I think so. A guy that we went to school with's older brother works at that branch, and he kind of came out and was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's legit." It was, he knew who David was, and they kind of like vouched for it. But his name wasn't attached to it at all. I was wiring this money to this out of state bank for someone who the wiring instructions for a name I didn't know, and like it definitely
So
didn't seem legit from coming from me explaining it. But I mean, it was. But yeah, that was.
did
I
it
kind of
perform pretty
dived
well?
head
Or did
first
you
before
lose
I.
all your money?
I'm sorry.
Did it perform pretty well, or did you lose all your money?
No, it's doing really well. We just got the last the last monthly update we got that syndication's fully renovated. Or it's fully renovated and fully it's at full occupancy, so it's doing great. So that little blind leap of faith I took was a really good, a really good move that I just kind of accidentally did because I trusted David.
What a
Yeah.
way to get started in real estate. I mean,
Yeah,
Ty and I still have never taken part of a syndication, and here you are. You're saving your money. You're trying to figure out what to do, and that's, I mean, kudos to you. That's like the number one thing, right? Save your money, make sure that you have that nest egg, and then try to figure out what to do with it. So many people want to buy everything and then they don't save the money to get there. So at least you did the right part in saving the money, getting yourself prepared, and then learning a lot about a specific situation, going into business with somebody that you trust, and jumping over like 6 levels of real estate investing and starting with the syndication. I mean, that's really impressive.
so I mean,
That
if
being
you
said, I don't recommend throwing your money into something that
just
you
don't
don't
do what I did,
understand.
don't do what I did.
It,
Don't do
yeah,
what I
and
did.
honestly, it reminds me of like anybody that buys crypto. Nobody really knows what like
Yeah, yeah.
blockchain technology is, and like people are making money on it, sure, but like there's very few people that actually
Yeah.
understand the technology.
I'm not.
So
I'm definitely not saying it's the right way to get started, but it was my way to get started. And like you said, Tommy, that was my start into real estate. But really, my start into real estate was saving money for years. Like that wasn't like I didn't just get that money. It was me working like long, long hours at a W-2. I was already a pretty frugal person, so yes, I mean, I did have that big lump sum to move into something like that, but it didn't come from just me, snapping my fingers. That was years of saving and just grinding at a W-2. I mean, which is the
dude,
part that no
I
one
love that
likes.
'cause we we try and stress that part of like real estate. Like David Green stresses it, but like we also just see it seems like everybody else acts like you don't need money to get into real estate. Like you can just do seller financing and sub two and like wholesaling, and it's like there are very few people that are like you have to make more and save more. So like I love the fact that you said that.
Yeah.
But
And then for my actual first deal was an all cash purchase that me and David made together. And then, of course, that was where that money came from as well, was just hard blood, sweat, and tear W-2 money, which is not the pretty money, but it's the money I had.
yeah, it's the money that you need to get started to then like I'm kind of in a boat where almost everything that I've bought in so far is from W2 money. I'm not like making a ton on real estate yet where it's buying me a ton of other real estate, but you have to start somewhere to get to that point. But David, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story? We know a little bit about it, but not not everything.
Yeah, so mine's a little different there. Like my now father-in-law, who's my seventh and eighth grade teacher, he literally would. He was my science teacher, but he'd always talk about stocks and real estate, like continuously. Like that's what that's what I learned from elementary school and high school. Was I picked up on that? I'd bring it to my dad, and just kind of like go back and forth. And I always like did side jobs and stuff like that for him, and worked at his rental houses, things like that. And then kind of transitioning to college, um, I I was like Michael said, I was always frugal, always saved. Like if I went out to eat, like I would try to make it like sub $3. Like money was definitely a motivator for a long duration of my life there. So I looked up like how to become rich. Saw a lot of stock videos and found Grant Cardone. I know a lot of people don't like Grant Cardone, but That's literally how I got started. And so kind of watched his YouTube videos, like went all in. So probably watched the YouTube podcast videos for like sophomore to junior year. I don't even know if Michael knows this, but I tried to. The first deal I ever tried to buy was it was a 38 unit. It was listed for like 2.2 million. I 1% roll. That's how I underwrote. 1% roll was like 1.7 million or something. It's right next to Tennessee Wesleyan College in Athens there, and the bank, I mean, basically just like laughed at me. I'm 20 years old or something, trying to get this, and going in there like, hey, I have a deal. I need this loan. What can we do? And then like I'm at the bankers and they're like, well, you're gonna have to talk to an actual like loan officer. We don't do that. I'm like, well, whatever. Put me in touch. Obviously, that I took that no and then didn't try like other places because I just assumed I couldn't.
Did you actually have like 20% down?
No, I had $2,000. Like I
One
mean,
percent, 1% down.
yeah, like I literally had nothing to show for it. I own like my vehicle and that's basically it. I mean, I would transition and work like one or two jobs through college. But like they're like, part-time jobs, things like that. Or at least like my junior and senior year. But yeah, I didn't have any money for it. So the first one I actually bought was like a $11,000 tax auction house. That I bought it with my father-in-law. Basically, I was in kind of starting in the property management side at that point because I wanted to get into real estate. So chose my W-2 job based off of that. Used he's pretty handy, but also used like my one of the maintenance supervisors at the apartment complex I worked for. I remember just me and him were there working on it, and he left. And I remember we were trying to install a water heater. I think we put like the PEX plumbing, combined something that wasn't supposed to, and I flooded it. But but he was real good cheap labor, and it ended up. I mean, it's rented for $1,000, all in probably like 14,000. So that's kind of how I got started, anyways, and bought a couple of those and kind of let it like scale up that way. But
Yeah, it's so good. I love how you decided to do the research, right? Like, how do I get rich? And you just come across Grant Cardone, who is probably one of the tougher people to follow, right? And that's who put you down the path of trying to find this 38 unit for $1.7 million, a little bit out of your budget. But like a lot of people would see that real estate is a way to get rich and then kind of give up at that point. Not only did you stick with it 100%, you then went and got a career in property management, and you started out as a property manager to gain extra experience, and then took those relationships and that experience to then invest in real estate kind of on your own, and then did that for several years and kept growing your knowledge from your W-2 job, which was property management, and then scaling your portfolio that way. So it's a really strategic way to get into real estate before you had a ton of the money, and then keep growing your portfolio over time.
exactly, and I'm not handy like at all with anything. So like using the network with like those like maintenance like that are willing to help, just like that network that I've gained is, I mean, it takes away the hard stressful part for me, and allows me to kind of do like the easy thing that I feel like I'm good at anyways, and I don't know, just kind of takes the burden away from it anyways, just using that network. So
Yeah, I haven't really talked to many investors that knew they wanted to invest in real estate in high school, and I really wish that I did, because maybe I would have planned my W-2 based on real estate. Like, it's completely unrelated. I'm an engineer, but everybody that I meet is like after college. I feel like that would have been really helpful. Like if I was in high school and I was just like, oh, I'm going to go be a realtor or like property manager or something in the industry. Because, I mean, me and Tommy talk about getting our license all the time now, but if I would have known this at like 18, it would have been amazing. And I feel like it would have helped my like investment portion a lot. Do you find that doing the W-2 like plays into the investing side a lot and helped you grow quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. More than anything, it honestly gave me confidence. So like I'm not stuck on analyzing a deal. Like I'm like anything you put in front of me, I'm pretty confident in like in handling. And because I know like what I know now is if I don't have an answer for it, I know that I can find someone that does. But yeah, it's like I said, those last couple of years, like I just grinded out podcasts, YouTube videos. I was scared, kept getting told no, had very little money. Um, but yeah, it's literally just basically just changed my whole mentality. Kind of the more I got into property management, anyways.
So you scale your portfolio up kind of on your own, and then this is something I find very interesting, and I kind of feel like I'm in a similar spot to you in the sense that like I was doing my portfolio, kind of growing it on my own. I had another partnership, and then like I kind of strategically picked out Ty and was like, hey, I really want to start growing a portfolio with you. I like the way that he thinks about things. I think he's much smarter than I am in a lot of avenues of like just about how to go about property management. He's a little bit stricter than I am too, but he does a lot of things I think the right way. And I've seen how he's managed his portfolio, and I was like, I would really like to kind of manage a portfolio with him and have like the trade offs of he can handle X, I can handle Y, and like if I can't get to something, I know and trust that Ty can get to it. And so I'm assuming that you had a lot of those same thoughts and concepts about Mike, and that's what helped you kind of, I don't know, say beg him or force him or convince him, hey, get into this syndication. And now, like, tell us a little bit about what convinced you to start the partnership with Mike, get him into the syndication, and then, like, tell us where you guys have grown from that initial, because I believe you're starting to buy some properties together.
Yeah, well, kind of like he said, like it it started years ago with even out him realizing it at that time. Like he would do pretty good like investing his 401k, Roth IRA, save money, and that was kind of the rule I'm not sure if my friends realize, but I set for them like in my head is like, hey, if they do that, like I would love to get them in the real estate game with the extra income they have. So like if I couldn't physically get them to invest with me, that's why I tried to go the syndication route. Obviously, I'd rather them invest with me there, but um,
And
that's
and David's the king. Like he talks about how he has this plan for us, but he's the king of those small little mind games where like when we talk about how frugal David was, we can't really we're not over exaggerating. Like we would all be out to dinner with friends and we would all get, Cokes or whatever. Guys, that's $3 right there. That's $3. I mean, he was constantly on us, all of our friend group about, come on guys, you got to save money, save money. So it was just basically, I always had that positive money like influence from David. Like, I was already, somewhat frugal myself, but from David it was like, you want to invest that money like you. So I always had. So like David said, I might have not realized it, but he was just subtly working on me for years and years and years about just kind of like the mentality that's required to save the money to get into real estate, really.
yeah,
Do you happen to know Graham Stephan? There's a podcast called the Iced Coffee Hour.
Hmm.
You remind me a lot of him. He's like notoriously known for being frugal. Like if he said when his friends would want to go out to eat, he'd call ahead and ask if he could bring his own food, and he'd get like a $5 foot long and bring that, so he didn't have to spend $30. Or he'd bring a can of soda with him so that he didn't have to spend the $2. So
I
I personally love frugality. I am also kind of that person in my friendship or my friend group. Granted, I feel like that's gone away a little bit as I've grown up and lifestyle creep. Whether it's like what was now to me, unfortunately, like $5 is just like you don't even really think about it anymore. Whereas like you used to want to save that $3 on the soda. At least that happened to me. Not saying that's a good thing, but I do enjoy someone that's frugal like that.
well, I was gonna say I just now the first time I can remember that I've purchased a drink was probably like I think in May. I got
And I
I got
remember
a
him,
sweet
he
tea.
sent a text, guys, I bought a sweet tea. Like that was how big of a thing. I bought a sweet
And
tea at a
your
restaurant.
wife?
Like that was how big of a deal it was.
It's
That's
literally
crazy.
the first time in I think ever to be honest. So my wife's slowly helping me, enjoy the fruits of our labor. Because it's a hard mind shift to like. It's easy for me to save money. It's hard for me to spend it.
Yeah.
Um, So it's kind of the hard mind shift for me, anyways. But
So
Yeah,
if
I
you
mean,
always
it's not.
act broke, that's how you get rich.
Yeah.
Something like that.
yeah, I mean that's I don't spend money on myself. I still don't. Still drive my 2007 Jeep that's worth $1,000 that has HVAC tape on top of it from leaking and duct tape on the side. But my wife has a nice vehicle, so
Yeah, the wives typically know how to spend money a little bit more than the frugal guys can. I would definitely say that Ty was very frugal, and he still is. And a lot of the people that you see, to Mike's point, that have money end up being those guys that are frugal, and they're looking at like, hey, if I spend a couple, I mean, $5 is very dramatic to not buy a soda. But the people that you find saving money here and there, they're typically the people that know, hey, if I invest this dollar, it's going to be worth a lot more. If I spend this dollar, then it's going to be worth a lot less, and I'm going to keep depleting my portfolio. So those are the people that seem to be rich later on in life, are the ones that are more frugal at younger ages.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your first deal together, and I'm interested in like the partnership dynamics. So either one of you can answer that, but how did it kind of form, and what does it look like today?
yeah. So just to kind of transition to like every deal I've basically bought has been off market. Obviously, like this buyer's market has like changed things drastically. It's at least makes it a whole lot easier, anyways, in my opinion, to kind of not get some deals knocked down. So this one, and I think I'm telling it right. I think it was either a billionaire that was selling it or a hedge fund investor. It's one of the two. I don't remember which guy sold it or which party sold it, but they're selling or a bunch of those in the Augusta market instantly. Like I mean, within 1 minute of it hitting on the MLS, we contacted the realtor. I think Phil may have walked it that day, Michael. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure, but I mean he was on top of it. He went and walked it, gave us the rehab amount. I think we had an offer in on it within an hour, maybe. But we put that offer in. Literally, it was like everything was so smooth. It wasn't really like a hard process because we've done the work before. Like we vetted lenders before, we had the money ready before. Like we were ready for that deal. Like once it hit the
And
market,
we
because at
knew
this
like
point we
when that deal hit the market, we knew that we were like after I got into the syndication, of course, after I learned more and I put in the work and studied, I was like, okay, David, I'm all in. Whenever a deal comes available, and we knew that from David's prior connection that this would have been a good market for us. So we had everything ready to go, and we were just ready to pull the trigger whenever the deal came. So it wasn't like we found the deal and bought it. We had already had the groundwork. Like, hey, we here's our buy box. Here's what we're looking for. And as soon as the deal hit, we were ready. And then, like David said, when we pulled the trigger, it was a very smooth purchase. It was really a very smooth deal just because we knew what we were looking for. We knew kind of how we wanted to start our portfolio. And so we had kind of had a plan on what kind of how we were going to start. And then as soon as something that hit that criteria came available, we were ready to go.
How
yeah
long
we
would you say it took you to get that set up? Was it like 4 months or so where you talked about, did you form an LLC, talked about saving the money, going about getting pre-approved? I mean, that's a very smart strategy to go that route and do everything ahead of time. And I think a lot of people that can't get started today in real estate because things are too expensive should really look at, hey, finding your best friend and like, hey, do you guys want to kind of get rich together or do things together and start growing their portfolios that way? So what was that timeline like to kind of form everything and get started?
So we didn't actually form the LLC until after our second deal. I mean, we knew that we wanted to, um, and we knew that that's what we were going to eventually do, and then of course transfer it over. But as far as like the groundwork, what we were going to do, I mean, really, and we had been talking about this so much. Well, we'd been doing groundwork for a long time without even really realizing it. And then it was honestly really simple as far as here's how much money we have, here's what we're looking for. And then, and for me, I'm the lucky one where I just kind of got to, and it initially, kind of piggyback off David's connections and what he'd made. So for really me, for that first deal, I was, just riding along. I'm like still learning and, basically just I learned through that first deal.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
still, you took a very hard risk at that time. You know, you saved all your hard-earned money with your blood, sweat, and tears through your W-2 job, and then you were still able to take that leap. So don't, short self yourself. You still took a massive leap to get started. But I appreciate the way you guys went about it too, because a lot of people get so caught up in, oh, we have to have an LLC and we have to have all these other parameters set up so that we can get started. And in reality, you need, a decent amount of conversations and a lot of legwork, just making sure that you both have the same goals that you want to get out of this. But overall, you can get started without an LLC. You can get the right insurance policies. You can do things the right way with the plan to potentially grow into an LLC.
And I was gonna say to touch on that. So I remember it was a very smooth like purchase. Um, Unfortunately, like right before we were about to start the rehab, there was a hurricane that came through and
Yeah, that was
knocked out.
Hurricane Helene.
Yeah, the power and the water for like over a week. Like these businesses, so we didn't even know if our house was destroyed at this point. So I guess that was stressful, but like I'm not sure how Michael was feeling. In my head, I'm like, nobody's in there, so I know nobody would be hurt. Like if it got destroyed, got insurance.
Yeah,
We'll be fine regardless. But that was kind of like the thing that delayed us because then after that, like so many houses are destroyed, so the contractors were tied up. So it kind of did, like I said, that the vacancy hit a little bit more, but we quickly got it rehabbed, got it rented for $1,000, and it, been smooth since then. But yeah, that was the one hiccup I would say.
yeah,
So
just a slight
Hurricane.
hurricane.
That potentially destroyed
nothing
your
big.
property. So in terms of the partnership, do you guys, I think you said you have 9 units or 9 properties together. Are you at a point, I'm assuming, where like do you break up, not that you have like a title, but like Michael's in charge of this, David's in charge of this. Do you have like an operator and like a visionary type setup? Like have you discussed these things? Because Tommy and I we're not at that point yet where we've actually like have assigned roles, but we definitely just like took on things naturally that we like and that we're better at, which has worked for us because we have one property together. But obviously, as we grow, we're gonna have to like really define what each other's roles are. So like, what does that look like for you guys?
I would say we're kind of similar. I mean, we're this partnership is literally just based on trust. Like if you don't have that, that's the foundation.
Yeah.
So we more or less like what we've had is like if one's busier, like that other one's going to take on the task and handle that. And so there's no exact like roles that we have. I mean, we both have stuff that we're better at doing than the other. But kind of where we at or where we are kind of in our partnership, like with 9 units, where one of us can handle it one day, one of us can handle it the next. We just kind of communicate. Like that's if nothing else, like that's the one thing that we realize that we have to have is communication with what's going on, where that other one can pick up kind of where the other one is, anyways. So.
And for me, from like the less experienced side, everything that we've done, at least to this, I mean, there's not really been much that we haven't done together, right? Like, so everything that he does, I'm on the phone with him or right there with him, like, or everything that I do, he's right there with me. So for me, who's much less inexperienced as David, um, we're, it's kind of to the point where we're still doing everything together because I still feel like have so much to learn. But when I do something like, David's right there, or whenever he's, making a call, or we kind of tackle that stuff together. Like right now, there's not much that we don't do, at least without saying, shooting a text or having a phone call, like, hey, I'm talking to X and doing Y today. So really, we're not at a point, and I mean, I can't see, at least for a long, long time, where we'll ever be at a point where like, okay, David, you're doing this today, and I'm doing this today, because we have 15 years of foundational trust that we know that I can trust David that whatever needs to be done is going to get done, and he can trust me vice versa.
I find that to be one of the better ways to go about it. You're both almost proactive. If something comes up, you're going to handle it, or somebody else is going to handle it, and you have the trust that it's going to be done correctly. And then that way, you both know what's going on within the company, right? Like how much money is in the bank account. You know what bills basically need to get paid. Instead of like, hey, Ty's paying every single bill and I have no idea, and then I get like blindsided by a bill that I didn't know existed. I think it's best to be proactive, where you are both like very involved in the company. I think that's a great way to at least start out the company.
Yeah, but I will say though, like, not that I'm disagreeing, but I've noticed that extra levels of communication between Tommy and I can also add a lot of wasted time. Like, so we manage our own property, so a lot of the things that I'm talking about are kind of like between the tenants and us.
Hmm.
And so, like, let's say a tenant texts me, let's like an example, hey, we want you to get the carpets cleaned, and then I got to text Tommy outside of that group message, like, hey, should we get the carpets cleaned? Like, blah blah blah. I noticed that sometimes, like, we text in our own and then we go back to the group message, then we talk about it like, and it's like it adds this like layer of like phone tag almost where
Yeah.
eventually me and Tommy kind of just set like a number of like a property manager does, like, hey, if a tenant texts me and it's under $200 or $300, like just handle it. You don't even have to like tell me or ask me because I really don't need you don't need my opinion. So and then that cuts down on that like extra layer of like phone tag almost. I was noticing that me and him were talking a lot about things that maybe didn't necessarily need discussed because we trust each other, and like if he needs to spend $300 of our money on something, like go ahead, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think we do have that layer kind of trust already established because anything business related, we're in group emails, group text messages. Like
Yeah.
if one's seeing it, the other one is seeing it. So like unless it's like something bigger where we have to have a conversation on the side, like we're both probably giving our input right there about it
Yeah.
and getting it done. Which we have a lot of organization stuff established with the property management team anyway. So like they're handling a lot of that for us. So it's usually just like big ticket items like the
Yeah.
rehabs or something like that we kind of have to map out and analyze anyways. Or kind of like going back to where we're given tasks and stuff to do. Like we'll he'll get 3 quotes for lenders. I'll get 3 quotes. We'll bring him back and kind of
Yeah.
configure what's best. But
And then
it's
kind
a lot
of
of stuff like
and kind of like going back to what David said, it's kind of like, based on availability. It's like, hey, I know David slammed at work today. I know I got to I'll just go ahead and send this earnest money over. Whoever, we kind of got to, whoever's available just kind of tackles whatever comes up. And it's rare that we're both not available, but, if someone is tied up with something, the other person just handles it.
Did you say you have a property manager? For some reason, I thought you guys self-manage, but
No, we have a property manager.
no,
okay.
I hate self managing.
Oh,
I do it on some of my other ones, but I absolutely hate it.
Coming
okay.
from the property manager.
Yeah, coming from the property manager, it's just like for some reason it's just so stressful for me. Just more so than anything, it just annoys me. Just like the small tedious stuff, I just don't think it's worth the 10% in my opinion. Now getting started is like a little bit different, but kind of where we're investing so far away. I'd rather have their
Yeah.
professional eyes on it than us so far away, anyways.
Yeah,
Since
that's fair. I don't know if we touched on that, but you guys are in Tennessee, and a lot of your investment properties are in Georgia, correct?
at least for us, 100% of our properties are out of state.
Yeah, so that does make it a little bit easier to go with the property manager because you at least get boots on the ground, and that's something Ty and we talked about getting a property manager. We ended up paying a buddy of mine up there 2% a month just to be our boots on the ground guy. Like a couple weeks ago, we needed somebody to take a Xfinity box from the house over to the UPS store and ship it back. I'm like, oh, who's going to do that? And we pay this guy $70 a month or whatever, and he goes and he does that for us. So it's nice for us to have the boots on the ground, but that's kind of how we get siloed into different group chats too, because we are working with college students, and a lot of the times they'll just be like, oh, like I can't put this in the group with everybody. Let me just text Ty. Let me just text
Yeah.
Tommy. Let me do this individual side chat, and we're just like, yo, put it in the group chat, like so we can all see it at one point in time.
Yeah, so moving into Augusta again, I've said a bunch that I'm interested there because it's a little bit more affordable from where I currently invest and live. But tell us a little bit about like your business model, and what you're doing there.
So if there's a deal and meat on the bone, like we'll take it down. Kind of like our main goal anyway is like we're wanting to get like some 3 bedroom houses, good locations, that are going to have like good long-term tenants in place. It's kind of the main goal that we're looking for. We're wanting to get to about 40 of those to hit kind of like our target cash flow number over the next 5 years. We, trying to scale pretty quickly, but also like trying to not like do it too fast, like too over leveraged, like too much stress and anxiety with the rehabs. But kind of our buy boxes, like the 3-bedroom houses, those kind of going to rent for like that around that $1,300 price range, and we really want to get them for 80,000, 90,000, and kind of just do like cosmetic rehabs is the goal. However, we have purchased some 2 bedrooms and things like that just felt like we couldn't pass up because we're making like $30,000, $20,000 of equity like every purchase that we have, and with such a small loan amount, like it's gonna stack pretty quickly.
So kind of exiting the BRRRR strategy. That's what you're looking at doing.
It kind of sorta like I'd say one like South Michael, we probably targeting to do like maybe 1 or 2 of those a year, just because we do recycle the cash, but we're also like at least what makes me feel better at night is like more cash flow than like getting a house that's cash flowing $100 a month net after we underwrite it with like basically we'll write it like 70% expenses, versus like we'd rather have like $300 or $400 and leave put that 20% down, that just stack that way and kind of recycle the cash flow versus like burying it. But we will do like 1 or 2 of those a year.
So you're basically re-engineering from the end goal of trying to get to X from a cash flow perspective is what you want to grow this company to, and then everything that you're buying is trying to get you extra cash flow so you guys can get to that number and then just sit on the beach every day.
So I was gonna say that's the pivot point. We're all the time discussing. I mean, if of course we're not talking about real estate, we're texting in general. Anyways, we talk every day. I think that's why this works so well. But we've discussed kind of like pivoting to like a realtors, like probably like you guys have discussed there, loan officers, property management business. So we're kind of in the wheelhouse of we don't know exactly what we're trying to transition to there, but we do know we want to transition to something like that. Whether at that point we scale up enough to where we can start our own in-house and then pull others along, or kind of where we go from there. So
just kind of getting to that pure cash flow number to a point where we can make that decision where okay, we're going to take the leap and we're going to try and start our own full-time property management, realtor, loan officer, kind of give us the variability that we can make that decision that we want to do. So really it kind of getting that cash flow is really our number one goal, and then kind of what we do after that is kind of just like whatever we want at that point. But we do know that when we get to that cash flow number, we're not, and I know David's the same way, we're not the type of people to really just sit around on the beach. We're going to want to keep growing. We want to get more. But it'll be building something for us instead of working for a company, just kind of bringing other people that we know up along, and getting them involved and things like that. And that's a big one for us is, we want to take what we're doing and also bring all of the other people up around us that we're friends with, right?
Yeah, you want to come up with that dream life of what you want to get to when you are retired that does include working, right? Because none of us really want to sit there and not work and do nothing. So coming up with that and then finding that trade-off, like how much cash flow can I get to that allows me to take that jump so I can live that lifestyle that I think would take me to be 50 or 60 years old and live that lifestyle at 40 or whatever age that might be. And then to your point, 90% of the reason Ty and I are doing this podcast are to try and show people the value in real estate and the fact that you're already talking about, hey, I want to get to my dream retirement lifestyle like in the next 10 to 15 years. A lot of people, if they're 30 today, aren't thinking about that until they're 60 and they're just retired off of their 401k. And this gives them the opportunity to start that life a lot sooner. And that's kind of why we did the podcast, to share more stories like that, and hopefully more people can make the connection that real estate can help them get to that dream life much sooner.
Yeah, I mean, it really does only take one person to like tell you about it, and for me that person was Tommy. I mean, we haven't really told you our story too much, but like Tommy had a few properties. I married his sister, and then he like introduced me into like real estate investing. So when he said he chose me as a partner, I don't necessarily know that that's true. I think me and his sister chose each other, but
I feel like I
yeah, I
had
mean, like,
some say in who my sister dated. I tried to scare away as many guys as I possibly could, so I did a decent job.
but my point is like I was 23 when, and up until that point, I didn't know like one person that owned rental properties, and Tommy was the first person at like 25 or yeah, to like say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. Like these are the numbers. Like this is some sort of like avenue to retiring before 65. Because I think anybody that is buying real estate for an investment, I feel like we all have the same goal, and that's to retire before 65, whether
Yeah.
that's 30 or even 50. Like I keep pushing my realistic number back because when I was first listening to the podcast, my retirement age was like 28, and now I'm 29, and I feel like I haven't even started yet. But yeah, and then you do transition into like trying to get your friends and family and just other people into it because again, it can really only take one person, one podcast, one mentor to like really change your financial like outlook on 401k, but specifically real estate.
Yeah.
Was that part of the discussion, Michael, that helped you transition into wanting to invest in real estate? Was trying to, like, I know you said, hey, I just want to do something good with your money. But then after conversations with David, did you realize not only do I want to do something good with my money, but did your goal sort of change into, hey, I want to retire at a younger age. Maybe I don't want to work this W 2 anymore. And real estate, you saw that real estate will give you like that green light at a younger age.
Absolutely, and that was kind of like the selling point. Like, hey, if you put the groundwork in and you really grind it out for 5, 10, 15 years, that can be it if you really want it to be. Like you can really put your nose down and grind super super hard for 5 to 10 years, and then the fruit of all that labor is then you're done if you want to be. So that was a big selling point, and like I said, David had always been like the financial guy in my friend group, and he was always the money person. But then when he really broke it down, like, hey, this is a really realistic path that you can do, right? Like you have the money to get started. You got to do it, and that's kind of where when we bought Reese our first property, I was just like, I'm ready to go, and that was just getting started. And then as soon as we bought property one, it was all bets are off after that. I mean, I caught the bug hard, and it's all I think about now.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
there's
I know you don't really
Steve.
give yourself as much credit, and I think Ty does the same thing, but you guys need to give yourself a lot more credit for listening to somebody as crazy as David or myself and trying to convince you, what to do with this lifelong savings and taking that, jump and leap of faith. Because David's been preaching this to everybody, and I preach this to all my friends too, and I got about two or three of them that have actually listened to me and jumped into real estate and seen the benefits. So you guys deserve a lot of credit for jumping into it.
I was gonna say, well, now there's two of us in the group, just chirping away at it
Yeah,
and trying to get
yeah.
the other ones on board. So
Then
and
then
and
we'll
they
get more and more, and then
yeah, I was gonna say they do a really good job of like investing, have good income. So it's I don't think it'd be a hard step for any of them. It's just taking that step
I have a
basically.
lot of
So
my friends that I got them into getting like a Roth IRA set up and taught them a little bit more about saving money. And I have a buddy now that's like, he knows way more about investing than I do. He's like talking to me about stocks. And I'm like, hey, buddy, like, I love you. I stayed away from stocks. Like, I learned a little bit about it. And then I just realized I just want to buy real estate. So but I'm proud of him that like,
yeah,
I felt I helped spark that conversation into getting him to learn a little bit more. He was just saving all of his money. We're like, we got to save it into something that's going to make you more money. You can't just have dollars in the bank. It's not, you're going to be losing money that way. So it is really cool when you help have that influence on somebody.
yeah, absolutely. And I know me and David think the same way. Like when we get there, we don't want it to just be us. We want it to be all of the people close to us. So we're constantly like, it used to be just David, and like David said, now it's me and David. Like, hey, get a house hack, or hey, look, we'll send a property in somewhat close to an area. Look, this is house hackable, So we're now instead of David chirping, it's me and David chirping. So when we get there, I mean, we want to get there with with all of the people close to us. So that's kind of like, really, if you talk about end goal, that's the end goal, is like, we're we've made it. We've hit our phi number, but we don't want to be there alone. We want the people around us that have the ability to do it to kind of take that leap too. So like when we talk about, in the future, like I would love to be like what David was to me, to one of my other friends, and then just kind of eventually, we're all successful real estate investors together, and that would be, perfect end goal scenario.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't really I've listened to a lot of bigger pockets and I haven't really heard anybody say that they hit their financial freedom and their goal is to make sure all their friends do as well. So I really applaud you for that. Do you guys have any like advice for people that, let's say they don't have the money to buy something on their own and they're a little weary of partnerships, which is like you should be, right? You don't want to just jump into a partnership with anybody. Like I would be pretty strict on who I'd invest with. Tommy was kind of like an easy choice because we talked about real estate for so long. But do you have any like advice or like things to watch out for in terms of partnerships?
So I'll let David touch on the real estate side, but just from a general piece of advice, I know it's not the popular answer, but you've got to grind out the W-2, you've got to make more money, and you've got to save more money. Like, it's not the popular answer, and I know like getting into real estate no money down is a sexy idea and it gets pushed a lot, but it's super hard to do that, and it limits your opportunities. So if you just grind it out, start working more hours, or get a little side hustle and just get the nest egg that then you can deploy once you gain that knowledge. That was, to me, was my biggest advantage, where I grinded it out for so long, and then whenever David finally got to me, I had the money to do something about it. So like I said, I know it's not the popular answer, but it's really important to have a good nest egg to start with. I mean,
It's the real answer, even though
yeah,
it's not popular. The real answer isn't the sexy answer, and it's not
yeah.
what sells a bunch of ads on Instagram. But again, it's real. That's what you need to do. Ty and I, in a previous podcast, we broke it down and talked about you have to get the knowledge and do some learning and listen to some podcasts, read some books. But once you get that knowledge, you need to then try to get that extra income. And whether you can take extra hours at your 9 to 5, like I always think of David Green, and he was working even extra shifts, as a police officer. But then he was also picking up extra shifts on the weekend and working as a waiter and making a ton of money there and trying to grow his skills and being more personable. And then I think he became a realtor to make extra money to keep investing back to real estate. So whatever you can do to save up enough money for that nest egg to get that first property started, then it's just going to snowball from there. And you'll start, maybe you don't work that second job because you're starting to get some extra income off of that rental property, and keep going. But I like your answer. I respect that it's, not something trying to sell Instagram clicks anymore.
Yeah, so I was kind of going to go into kind of the W-2 side piece about that. Um, you know, Theoretically, if you don't have money, or don't have the luxury of the W-2 and kind of wanting to get in, like, you can always, if you find a deal, feel like you can always find the money. Even if you're like, when I first started, I felt like I could have found the money if I just kind of knew what I knew now. Of course, hindsight's 2020, but like, I was just trying to look at a 20 unit and kind of bring that to like Michael and like the group, the real estate group we're in. And a wholesaler had it under contract for $1.1 million. It's a 20 unit in Knoxville, Tennessee. He just closed on it and made $500,000 for 1.6 million. So like, it's doable. Like, not everyone can do that or have the contacts, but like, I feel like if you just grind something out, like in the W-2 job or another space like wholesaling or something like that, you're gonna gain experience, and you're gonna eventually get a lucky break. I mean, because you're persistent, you're working hard, you're whatever you're doing, you're eventually going to meet those contacts or that person or find that deal. And it's like, if that one deal's going to change everything, or that one person's going to change everything. So I would just
Especially
stay.
especially with real estate, it's something it is sexy and it is attractive. As much as people think or act like it's not, like if you say you're a real estate investor, people are instantly intrigued. They're like, "Oh wait, what? Like that's interesting. I've always wanted to do that, but I was always too scared. I could never do that." And so to your point about like we were talking about finding other jobs or other ways to make extra income, go all in on real estate and learn as much as you possibly can about it and start analyzing deals and start finding some deals. And if you find something that's a 30% cash on cash return, just start screaming at the top of your lungs until you get in touch with a David, a Michael, a Tommy, a Tyler, and they're gonna be like, damn, that's a great deal. Let's go ahead. Let's start being a partner. So you probably know somebody that's investing in real estate today. Go ahead and do the research and find a good deal. And guess what? You might have somebody that will partner with you.
And
Yeah,
even if you don't know someone, it's really easy to find someone this day with social media. If you just type in real estate investor and then your area on Instagram, you're going to find someone and that can at least be a starting point where, hey, I found this deal, let's talk and you can make a connection. So, I mean, you kind of got to be a little outgoing and you got to be sometimes annoying, like, hey, I'm so and so here, I found a deal. But if you want it bad enough, you can find, like David said, you can find the money.
And that's a perfect silo. I really wanted to get into David in general, and I'm not sure, Michael, if you're as creepy on Instagram as far as reaching out to everybody. But to your, everything that you just mentioned and said, you find this deal and you start messaging these local real estate investors on Instagram and saying, "Hey, I found a deal." Granted, they're going to have to vet you, so hopefully you have some pictures and it's not just like a scammy profile. But you might be able to build a relationship and at least send them the deal. And so I know that's something David's had a lot of experience in is sending DMs and getting in touch with people that maybe he wouldn't have gotten in touch with if he didn't have, if he wasn't reaching out to them. So could you talk on that a little bit, David?
Yeah, I mean, I've used like social media, like basically watching, the Wealth Juice or Bigger Pockets. Like I'm always reaching out and kind of trying to network with the people that will like, want to talk to me anyways and give me information. Like even if it's not like asking them something, I'm like, hey, that's awesome story. Like, congratulations on, like the car you just got, like it's something random, just like keeping up with them. So I'm like always trying to network that way, and then kind of like how I use it personally for like just the East Tennessee properties I purchased. Um, I'm literally messaging a ton of different realtors. Just trying to like show them the foundation. Like, hey, I've bought this property before. Like they know I'm serious. So that way I'm first in mind or one of the first couple in mind. Like if they get a deal or he'll hear of a deal. I mean, I've had several that if someone's getting a divorce and needs to quickly sell, like they'll bring it to me cash offer. Whereas like I'll buy it for 85K, it's worth 170,000, and you can rent it for 1,100. I've had some where they have unfortunately passed away, and they'll bring me a package of the portfolio for 70,000 a door, and it rents for around 1,100. Just like different scenarios like that where I put in the work up front and reaching out, networking, even though it's doing nothing for me at that point. It's building that relationship and setting it up for when like something does happen or they do have something. They're like, oh, David's a real estate investor. I'll send it to them. Like it literally happened to me this morning. A guy from high school sent me that wholesale deal I sent Michael, and it's a like $175,000 deal. It's a 3 bedroom and like an ADU in the back. It would be the perfect like house hack that you would actually make money on, or just like a regular rental. Like so, it's just things like that, just setting you up for success to be persistent, kind of networking on Instagram, Facebook, whatever you can do. Just say, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking for this. Do you have any advice? Or, if you have any deals, or you can even try to be valuable and be like, hey, saw this listing. Maybe this can help you. Just find some way to give them value or to like put the name to face for them to remember to like reach out if a deal does come anyways.
yeah, that's great advice, and that segues into the merch that you have is awesome. I don't see too many like real estate investors with merch because like you're not selling a product per se, but like let's just say you're out and you're talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh, Bull Martin, I've never heard of that." Like, "What company is that?" You're like, "Oh, it's my real estate company." And they're like, "Oh, real estate, I have 50 units." Like they it's like a good way to like get people to ask about it, and that's like a perfect networking segue. So I might start doing something like that with Tommy,
Yeah,
but
just
it's the
something
same kind of
simple
idea.
with your name and whatever is enough to get the conversation started, which, that's sometimes that's all it takes.
And
Right,
and this
versus
is, I was gonna say, just to like this kind of goes with the networking too. Like, we don't have a specific goal with the merchandise or with like our social media. Like, it's just kind of like a like for the journey or like just documentation. But we're like, hey, we may one day like we
Yeah.
may want to raise capital for a fund, or we may want to grow a property management business, and we'll have showed this proof of concept. So it's another one of those things where we're kind of doing it now to, if we want to pivot later, we'll already have like a kind of framework to show to other investors or people selling that they can know like and trust us anyway. So
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing with the podcast. Like, we're not looking for anything today, but like we've never raised money either, but that's hopefully to come. And like in 3 years, we could be like, yo, like look at our podcast. We have
Yeah,
150
I've got a
episodes. Like, this is our Instagram. So it's
200
just like a
catalog podcast discussing nothing but real estate. They know you're serious.
right, right. So all right, well, that's about all the questions I have today. Do you guys want to link? You have an Instagram together, right? I'll add it in the description. You just want to give us your handle for people?
yeah,
Yeah.
you have it, Michael.
Yeah, it's regular dot real estate. Let me double check that.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
it's just like David said, it's just basically we're not trying to sell anything. We kind of started it as just really just a portfolio journal, right? We put
Yeah.
real numbers, we put our purchase prices, we put our rehab amounts, cash flow numbers. I mean, we're not, and one of my biggest pet peeves with a lot of real estate investors on social media is they'll put, they'll put all this stuff, but it never includes any actual numbers, right? And I'm nosy and I'm curious. I want to know the numbers. So that was kind of like what we started with, and what our plan was with this is we're just gonna all of our deals that we get, we're gonna put pictures and we're gonna put what we bought it for, what we put into it, what the cash flow looks like, and that way, if people want to follow along on our portfolio, they can. But if, like David said, if we find a really good deal and we need to raise some money, we can say, all right, this is what we've done in the past. Here's actual numbers, what we've done, and then it's just really just a resume of kind of what we've done in the real estate space.
I remember when I first saw one of your posts once you guys started your Instagram page, and I was like, wow, David, like that is awesome. I love how the numbers were there, because I recognize the same thing in everything that you see. It's a lot of just talking heads and no like proof behind the scenes and like what's actually going on. And I'm always wanting to see, like, especially right now, like it's tougher to get deals. Like that's common across the board, right? That's why you're investing out of state most likely, is because that market makes the most sense. And so when it's tougher to find deals, to have people actually showing the deals that they're doing can still give people some confidence. And there was a guy, the Stealthy Rich, I believe that's the name of his podcast. I know David and I have been following the Wealth Juice since they had that podcast like 4 or 5 years ago with that gentleman on there. And luckily we just got to listen to a pre-podcast episode where he talked a lot about Bitcoin yesterday. David and I were pretty curious, and it was a fun conversation. But he was one of the original people, and I'm not sure if you got your ideas, David, from that page, but his page had like everything on there. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. He's showing me his property, the prices, like the remodels, the horror scenes, like everything was on his Instagram page. And I'm like, that is my goal, to build my Instagram out like that. And then I see you guys doing it. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I need to step up my game and start putting my numbers out there. But I do think it's really cool what you guys are doing on Instagram.
That's literally who I want to kind of mock our Instagram over. So yeah, that's I told him that yesterday too. I was like, you have no clue, but our little channel, like, I want to copy basically everything how you do.
And you told him via a cold direct message?
Yes. Hey, we've been messaging for a very long time. I mean, I've followed him for 3 or 4 years, so it's just like he honestly probably knew my name, to be honest, from how much I'm like, hey, so I have this question and I'm just curious because it doesn't make sense to me, and he'll answer and fire away. But
And so that's one thing that David's doing. He didn't allude to it as much as I wanted him to earlier, but he is listening to a podcast, let's say the Wealth Juice, for example, and then seeing the Stealthy Rich on there. And then he's messaging the Stealthy Rich and asking them specific questions about what they discussed on the podcast and trying to learn from them. And that's kind of what we're trying to encourage everybody else to do. If you have questions for David or Michael and you go on their Instagram, go ahead and send them messages, and they're going to get you some information back. And you need to be a little bit more outgoing in today's society with direct messages, because it's not as much of a face-to-face world as far as meeting new people. A lot of people are in their own silos and they're just going to move, get what they need to do done. I think you need to be a little bit more active on social media, and that's how you're able to build a very large, presence and like network.
And
Yeah, and which
that was one of the first things David kind of hammered to me was like hit those DMs, follow everyone I follow, and just start messaging just to kind of get my name out there. And you know you're going to get a message back maybe 10% of the time, but who knows? They may eventually message back, and what's the worst that could happen? They ghost you.
Yeah, and you had that thought, right? So it's like, hey, I saw Stealthy Rich post something, and I'm curious. Like, I could have messaged him 3 years ago when I thought he got hacked because all he did was talk about Bitcoin. I thought, because he didn't have a space, right? It's just like that talking orange balloon. I'm like, oh, this guy really did get hacked, and now it's a scam. And I'm like, oh, he's legit. This is what he's actually doing. But if I was reaching out to him instead of just thinking about it, then I could have had that relationship too.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's how we found Phil. Just real quick on that topic, like I followed him since 2021. From I think maybe Bigger Pockets. I know he did a lot of some stuff with like Soli, but I'm pretty sure I found him on Bigger Pockets, and I almost invested in syndications with him. Ended up going with Ryan and Corey on a lot of stuff, but I just I've messaged him like I have probably thousands of DMs before I even got his phone number. That's probably no exaggeration of just asking away different scenarios, and then finally like kind of got on a phone call with him and Michael to go over our plan. Like this is what we want. Like I trust you. Like you don't even have to show me anything at this point because I've followed along on your Instagram, your social media, from Bigger Pockets. Like he's on the forums. So that's kind of how like because I'm pretty conservative with investing at heart. So like out of state real like if I couldn't see the house, like I would never do it in a million years. So that's kind of what gave me the trust, anyways, to kind of to follow along with Phil. There was social media and literally talking to him for 5 years, I guess, at this point. But
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for coming onto the podcast. We greatly appreciate the knowledge, and hopefully, we inspired somebody else to get started in real estate. So, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, no problem. It was also our first episode with two guests, which was cool because like me and Tommy have our partnership, and then you guys have your partnership. So it's cool to get different perspectives and different business models and things like that. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll have to do it again when we hit that fire goal. So
Yeah, follow up.
Fire goal, or whenever you convince somebody else to get into real estate, we'll have the third person on, and the company will just keep growing bit by bit.
exactly.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, see you guys.